Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to be reacting on something terrible is happening in Germany. Okay, something terrible. Wow, I really love to know. So let's go check this out.
For the past 20 years, Germany was the growth engine of the European Union. With its industrial base and car manufacturing empire, it exported its brands and products all around the world, and it grew faster than any of the other large Western European nations. But lately, the German economy has not been doing well, and that's putting it very mildly. Volkswagen, the crown jewel of the German car manufacturing industry, is considering closing down factories in Germany for the first time in history. The German GDP, adjusted for inflation, has barely grown in the past 5 years, and the economy is dealing with what you could call a perfect storm of challenges and obstacles
Wow, is
that
that
all came
correct?
at exactly the wrong time. And there are increasing doubts about whether Germany will be able to overcome its current slump, or whether this is just the beginning of something much worse. So why did the German economic machine suddenly run out of steam? How come that even with all of its legacy brands, the economy is struggling to grow? And will they be able to overcome this, or is this the end of the German economic success? This is the uncertain future of Germany's economic miracle. For decades, Germany was synonymous with economic strength. Ever since World War II, it enjoyed the so-called Wirtschaftswunder, or economic miracle, that followed the post-war recovery, and which blessed Germany with almost 4 decades of high growth, thanks to German engineering and manufacturing industries. And although the economic growth eventually slowed down, Germany had established itself as the industrial heart of Europe, fueled by export of products with large margins, like cars, machinery, and chemicals. Companies like Volkswagen, BMW, Siemens, and BASF became global leaders, with German products seen as the pinnacle of quality and reliability, and with Germans enjoying high salaries and high quality of life as a result. Its economic model was built on a few key pillars: a strong manufacturing base, a highly skilled workforce, commitment to quality, and very strong exports. Even during the global financial crisis in 2008, Germany emerged relatively unharmed, and it was considered one of the winners of the Eurozone crisis, with its economy expanding while many of its European neighbors struggled. But in recent years, things got a lot worse. Last year, Germany was the only G7 economy to shrink, and it's set to be the group's slowest growing economy again this year. In the past 5 years, since 2019, its GDP per capita actually shrank by 1%, the 34th worst outcome out of 41 high-income economies. Out of the G7, even the UK and France did better, while the US, which Germany wanted to catch up to at one point, is in a whole different league. But while the current German economic performance is bad, the real underlying worry is different. The real question is whether the current economic problems are just a seasonal cold, a temporary slump caused by effects beyond Germany's control that will eventually go away, or if it's a result of a chronic disease, a systemic problem that is here to stay, making Germany's weak economic performance the new normal. Well, to answer that, we have to look at where Germany's current economic problems are actually coming from. In many ways, Germany has been one of the winners of the past 2 decades of the so-called peak globalization, because the external global conditions were benefiting exactly the type of economy that Germany has. Most importantly, it was hugely benefiting from a booming trade with China, which opened up its markets to German machinery, vehicles, and chemicals in the past 2 decades. And while China was going through its own rapid industrialization, it was happy to buy exactly the kind of stuff that Germany was selling. But these favorable conditions have dramatically changed. As China developed its own industrial capabilities, it began producing goods that directly compete with German exports, like machinery and cars. Today, China is not really a German customer anymore, but rather a competitor, and the geopolitical landscape has shifted as well. When Russia cut off its gas supplies to Europe in 2022, Germany suddenly lost its access to a major source of cheap energy, which for the past 2 decades powered its energy-intensive industries. And it was forced to find alternatives, which, however, came at a significantly higher cost, which then ended up lowering its competitive edge. And in addition to a changing external environment, Germany
And
faces
that
a
alone
whole
can
lot of
weaken
internal
Germany's
structural
economic
issues.
strength.
Despite significant immigration, Germany has a rapidly aging population, and in the next decade, it's expected to lose about 1% of its workforce annually, which means fewer workers and lower consumer spending power, weakening domestic demand and placing further strain on the economy. On top of that, a lot of the positive stereotypes that used to be associated with the German economy are simply not true anymore. While Germans were once seen as Europe's
And that alone can really weaken the economic of the Germans, right? I understand where this particular person is going to. Wow.
hardest workers, recent data suggests something else. Germans actually work the fewest hours on average among OECD countries, with an average of 1,300 hours per year compared to the OECD average of 1,700 hours. And Germany's domestic market is notoriously overregulated, which stifles innovation and makes it difficult for new businesses to succeed. Tesla, which chose Germany as the location of its new factory, only to face major issues when trying to actually build and operate it in Berlin due to German bureaucracy, is a good example of the challenges that businesses face in Germany today. And talking about car manufacturers, this industry, which was once a crown jewel of its economy, now also faces major issues. The European Union has made the decision to ban cars with internal combustion engines by 2035 in order to transition to fully electric transportation. But those are exactly the cars that German manufacturers have historically excelled at producing and where they had significant technological advantage. But if the ban is not cancelled, this advantage will largely disappear, causing further damage to the German economy and forcing German car makers to now race to catch up in the electric car market, where they face brutal competition from Chinese and American companies, which are way ahead in electric car technology and battery production. And finally, Germany suffers from the same disease as much of Europe. It's overly dependent on traditional legacy industries. Most of the largest and most successful German companies were founded many decades or even well over 100 years ago. But there are very few leading tech companies and globally successful startups. Despite its reputation for innovation, Germany has yet to produce tech giants comparable to those in the US or China, which means that it's unable to tap into the fastest growing sectors of the global economy. And it's left without the high-value jobs that this sector tends to bring. But what does all of that tell us about the German economic future? Well, there are two competing narratives about where all of this is heading to. The first view argues that Germany's current economic challenges are not just a temporary downturn, but rather the beginning of a prolonged period of stagnation and very limited growth. The era of peak globalization, which fueled Germany's expert-driven model, is most likely to be over, and instead the world is moving towards deglobalization, with supply.
So what do you guys think? Do you think it's something that German can literally come out of it stronger, or you feel like the economic of German is going to be shaky, like not forever? I don't want to say forever, but for a while. Please let me know in the comment section, right? And let me know if what he's making mention of are actually correct, right? Because I'm not a German, I'm just reacting on this, right? Please let me know. But yeah, let's continue watching.
Chains becoming more localized and countries putting up more rather than less trade barriers. And as China closes its markets and aggressively promotes its own products abroad, Germany is likely to lose a major export market, and it's unclear what might replace it. On top of that, German policymakers seem to be focused on having balanced budgets to the point of obsession, rather than trying to find ways of how to promote growth. And while it's generally good to aim for that, in times like these, when you need bold investments, being overly cautious might actually stifle economic growth even more. And Germany's energy issues are only likely to get worse as well, as the energy demands are growing, but sources of energy are not. An increasing number of European countries, including Germany, will be unable to sustain themselves with their own electricity production. And Germany, that decommissioned its own nuclear plants and where renewable energy is still struggling to fully meet demand, will face a potential energy shortfall, which could even further limit the industrial activity and make it even more expensive. But while all of that sounds pretty bad, and overcoming such a large number of challenges will be extremely difficult, this is not actually the first time that Germany is finding itself in this situation. In the late 1990s and the early 2000s, Germany was experiencing a deep economic crisis that was not so different from this one. It was struggling with low economic growth, high unemployment, and declining competitiveness, and it was often referred to as the sick man of Europe. Back then, the high costs of reunification with East Germany, the strong German currency which made German products less competitive internationally, and over-regulated inflexible labor market and outdated industries all made it seem like the German economy is just going to get worse and worse. But that didn't happen. Thanks to a series of quite drastic liberalization reforms, Germany managed to overcome the crisis and start growing again, transforming itself from a target of ridicule to an economic superstar in less than 10 years. And so the second, more optimistic view argues that Germany could pull off a similar transformation once again.
Okay, this was amazing to watch. I picked one or two things, but I throw it to you guys. What do you think about the German economy? Do you think it's okay? And do you think because of China and other countries that are actually manufacturing the same thing the Germans are manufacturing is going to tell on the German economy? Please let me know in the comment section, right? I want to read your comments. I want to know what you guys think about this particular video we just watched. Let me know in the comment section, right? Thank you, and I await your comments.